All right, good morning, people of YouTube. So we are back again today with another BT10 deck profile, or a deck that's kind of old, but gets a lot better in BT10 because of how the meta shapes up. Today we have Green Hybrid. So in BT9, this deck did next to nothing. People weren't leaving bodies on board, so you couldn't pierce over them, you couldn't gain value off of your Rapidmons. And so this deck was just all of its good tools just did less in BT9. But in the next format, we get decks like Minerva Loop that commit to board. We have, Xross Heart that just have a bunch of rookies that they want to have saved. So you get value by piercing over them. You just have Jesmon going wide as all hell. So this is a deck that just does better into a non-raising area meta, which is what we're expected to go into next format. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get into the deck profile. If you guys like this kind of content, make sure you guys like and subscribe, and we'll go over some of the cards that make Green Hybrid so great. For the level 2s, we got 4 copies of Gummy and 1 copy of Pina. These cards are just here to draw ourselves more cards, hit us more combo pieces. Gummy is better because it's just generic. If you suspend something, you get to draw. So that is the one that I'm electing to play 4 of. So that's it for the eggs. You do need to play 5 because we are playing Mimi in this deck, and we get a lot of value off of Mimi. So going into the rookies, I got 4 copies of the Memory Denying Terriermon. Memory Boost are still going to be a thing, especially if you're playing against Blue Flare. So you still want this card. Also, it evolves into Rapidmon for less. Next, we got 4 copies of the EX2 Terriermon. If we play a Tamer, we get to gain a memory, and then it's got a nice inheritable that pumps our Digimon up 2,000 if we suspend something on our opponent's board. This card can allow us to crash into 13,000s with Rapid, and then Armor Purge back down into this, which is really kind of cool. And, just gives you the chance to swing over bigger things. Like, if you can get this under an Ancient Beetle or something, you're golden. So Terriermon is just an absolutely phenomenal card. For the rest of the level 3s, I'm playing 2 copies of Betamon. This is the one that lets us search top 3 for a level 4 or a Tamer. So most of our good combo pieces are going to be those cards. So this card helps us see them. It's one of the cards that doesn't bottom deck Rapidmon, which is important sometimes. And since it's a green level 3, you can also evolve this into Rapid for 4. So that's really cool. Going into the rest of the level 3s, I have 2 copies of this Pamu. So this is it for the level 3s. I'm playing 12 green ones in the deck. Pamu was released in BT9, but nobody really played it because people didn't play green. But what this card says is during all players' turns, players cannot play cards by card effects. So things like Security Digimon. If you hit Thwart, Defeat, and Security, it's not coming out. If you're playing against Jesmon next set, and they're spamming all of their Sistermons, this card says no. If you're playing against Minerva Loop, you can play as many cards as you want if you have this card in play, because your opponent won't get the value off of their Minerva effect. So I'm expecting Pamu to be pretty good next set. I guess it really depends on how much Blue Flare, Jesmon, and Minerva go off. But those are the decks that this card really helps shut down. So I'm playing at least 2 copies of it. So there is one other rookie that we do get. We do get this copy of Angoromon. It has an effect that says if you play a Tamer, you get to draw a card, and an inheritable effect that says if you play a Tamer, you get to draw a card. So that's pretty good. I just don't know if this is going to be worth including with some access to some of the Floodgate rookies. And things like that. But it is something that I did want to mention here so that you could play it in BT10. Next, we got 3 copies of Rapidmon. This card is just the GOAT. It wasn't good in BT9 because people weren't committing to board. But now, you're going to have a bunch of people that are trying to get their material saved. You're going to have Minerva going wide. You're going to have a bunch of sisters staring you in the face. This card can pop them all. It's absolutely nuts. Rapid is just a phenomenal card, and it's one of the best green cards we've gotten in a very long time. Next, we play 2 copies of Kabuterimon, the blocker from the starter deck. It's a 1-cost Evo. That's really good. Also, it's an insectoid, so if we evolve Rhino on top of this, Rhino says it can only activate its effect if you have a hybrid or an insectoid card in its traits. So this is an insectoid, lets you fill that condition, lets you digivolve with a Rhino. Pretty nice, but also blockers are going to be pretty good next format. Not being able to deny your opponent game whenever they summon their crossbow and you have no security left is really good. And this card just works well into a lot of the other matchups as well. So for the rest of the level 4s, I'm sure you can predict this, but we are playing the generic 8 hybrids, the 4 Beetle and the 4 Metal Kabutery. These cards are just really good. Metal Kabutery will be able to suspend more bodies since there will be more low to the ground dudes in play. And something that I do want to mention with Beetle is you do gain value off of evolving this off of your level 3s as well. So putting this on top of like a Terriermon and then going into Rhino will let you, still be able to activate Rhino's effect whenever you attack, but it'll also let you get a search off of the Beetle whenever you digivolve up. So that's really nice. That's it for the level 4s. And the level 5 lineup is also really straightforward. We are playing 4 copies of Rhino Kabutery. This is still, in my opinion, one of the best level 5s in Digimon. Being able to digivolve when attacking is really good, and being able to digivolve for 1 over something that has a tamer in its sources is also really good. On top of being an 8,000 body, this card is just amazing. There are really no other level 5s that I would want to play in this deck. So, going into the level 6s, before I show you what I'm playing, I want to show you what you should be playing. So you should be playing 4 copies of Ancient Beetlemon and 2 copies of Shiva. These cards are really good next format. Ancient Beetle, whenever you kill something, you can trash their top security, which is nuts. And then Shiva says, if all of your Digimon are suspended, your opponent can't use options. And on your turn, when this Digimon becomes suspended, you trash the top card of their security. So Shiva will get extra checks that way, essentially, and trash good options against security control and things like that. But it also, just shuts your opponent out of their counterplay. They can't play an option to remove it, which is really, really cool. And then if Ancient Beetle dies, you get to play a hybrid from your hand as well. So in addition to having security trashing effects, this card replaces itself. So that's really good. It's also a 10 warrior, so it can be searched off of Boko. These cards are phenomenal, and you should be playing them. Something that I wanted to test that is working actually kind of well, but I can't realistically recommend it, is I'm playing 3 copies of GrandisKuwagamon from the Imperial starter deck, and 3 copies of GrandisKuwagamon. So everybody knows what GrandisKuwagamon does by now. It's just a really good boss monster. This GrandisKuwagamon from the Imperial starter deck is going to need a little bit more explaining. So it's an 11,000 with security attack +1. And when you digivolve into this card, you get +4,000 for the turn. So something that you can do is if you have the Rhino over a Beetle, or over like a Beetle and then a JP, you're going to have Piercing. So you can swing into your opponent's Digimon, evolve into GrandisKuwagamon. Now you're a 15,000. You're probably clearing it. And then you check 2 securities because you have the Piercing from the JP. So it's a really kind of simple combo, but it is still effective. The problem is GrandisKuwaga is only an 11,000 on your opponent's turn. So you run into some issues there. But the GrandisKuwaga is still a really good card. I still kind of recommend playing this card because it can let you suspend something and then switch your attack target. And this card's just hella beefy. This card just hits 16,000 naturally. Very rarely will you use your unsuspend effect in this deck, but it does come up from time to time. So I did want to mention this here. These cards have been testing kind of well, but the Ancient Beetle and the Shiva are just probably better in most situations. So going into the last Digimon of the deck, these are going to be the non-green ones. I'm playing 2 copies of Boko. Boko's still pretty good. You get to reveal 5, add a Tamer, and a hybrid or a 10 warriors. So it can search the ancient beetle if you are electing to play it that way. And then if it sticks, like if your opponent doesn't delete it on the following turn, you can evolve a tamer and get 2 memory. And sometimes they just don't have the means to delete it, or their fireball or their deletion spell is going to be more useful targeting like a Pamumon or something, in which case you can kind of protect the Bokomon that way. It's a great card. I think it's still worth playing, but it does kind of fall off a bit since we are getting introduced to more removal, which is why I am playing only 2 of it as opposed to past builds, which would play a lot more. By the same token, I am playing a single copy of Kalumon. This card doesn't have a level, so it can't be deleted by level-based removal, which is pretty fun. But it also is a 1 cost most of the time, since you will oftentimes have a Terriermon in play. And then it just pays for itself right then and there and draws an extra card. Gives something plus 3,000, so if there's something that you have difficulty swinging over, like if you're playing against Oryukin, or they have just a big blocker like Black War Greymon or something, and you can't delete it without trading, that's where Kalumon comes in. You save your Kalumon for those instances so that you can beat over it. And it's just a really good card, so I do recommend playing at least the 1. But I don't think I can recommend any more than 2. It's a good card, but it's not good against everything. For the Tamers, we got 4 copies of JP. This is really standard. Gives you piercing. Lets you evolve over this card for just 1 memory. That's stupid. This is a really good card. We got 3 copies of Mimi. Lets you flood the board. Sets your memory to 3. It's really nice. We got 2 copies of Izzy Mimi. So your opponent's going to want to swinging face at you, right? This card punishes them for doing that. If you have double Izzy Mimi and a Mimi in play at the start of your turn, if your opponent attacks you, you're looking at having 7 memory at the start of your next turn. And in addition to that, let's say you have a Rhino, and you have a card in hand that you could evolve into, but you want to hit something else. This card gives you the option to do that, because you can swing, activate the Izzy Mimi first, look at top 3, and then choose if you want to evolve into something there. And then, if you decide not to, then you can use the Rhino and then evolve into something in hand. That's pretty cool. It gives you more options, more versatility in your plays, and that's never a bad thing. The last Tamer I'm playing in the deck is the single copy of the starter deck Izzy. This is mostly here because it's a 2 cost, but if you suspend something, you gain a memory, which makes this card pay for itself very quickly. Also, having a 2 cost that can just memory choke your opponent, and then if you had a Boko out, you can evolve it for free on your next turn into like a Beetle, get a search, get a draw. That's really cool. It's a good Tamer. I just only have room for 1. The last 2 cards of the deck are 2 copies of Green Memory Boost. Just generic, good memory boost. Grab a combo piece, get you memory on a following turn. It's a great card. Something I did want to mention, though, is we do get a new option in the next set. We do get Grand del Sol. What this card does is it lets you suspend an opponent's Digimon, and then it lets you bottom deck an opponent's suspended Digimon. And it costs 2 less to play if you have 2 or more suspended Digimon in play. So Grand del Sol is a really good card. It's like the first security bomb that Green has that's actually worth playing. So if we continue having a lot of OTK decks in the format, this is something that you might want to consider. But I don't have room in it in this iteration of the deck. But this is the deck profile, you guys. Something to consider going into BT10, because we do have a lot of decks like this that can make a resurgence. A lot of decks like this do pretty well into decks like Xross Heart, since your opponent wants to be taking out most of your security. If your opponent swings and hits, 2 security early game, they hit a Tamer and a memory boost, you're popping off, and you are winning that game. So, that's all I gotta say. Make sure you guys comment down below your thoughts, and we will see you guys in the next video. Bye, everyone.